All right, today we're diving into how to build a really secure CI/CD pipeline on Azure. This is the backbone of modern software development, but honestly, it's also a place where some pretty nasty vulnerabilities can sneak in if you're not careful. So let's follow a piece of code on its journey and figure out how to lock everything down step by step.
So just think about it for a second. Every single feature, every little bug fix, any update to an app, it all goes on this incredible journey. It starts on a developer's machine, sure, but then it has to travel through this whole automated system, this pipeline, before it can ever get to a live user.
And that leads us to the big question, right? Is that journey a secure superhighway, or is it more like a risky back road with, a bunch of unlocked gates and blind spots? Because here's the thing. An insecure pipeline doesn't just put the code at risk. No way. It puts the entire application and all its data on the line. The stakes are incredibly high.
Okay, so here's a quick look at the roadmap for that journey. It all kicks off when a developer commits their code. From there, the system automatically builds it and runs some tests. Then comes the really important part, a series of security checks. If it passes all of that, it gets deployed to a dev environment, and then finally to production, where real people can use it. We're going to walk through this whole thing together. All right, let's start at the very first gate, authentication. This is all about how your pipeline proves its identity. Think about it. Before our pipeline can even think about touching any of our cloud resources, it has to prove who it is. If we mess this up, if some unauthorized process gets past this point, well, honestly, the rest of our security is pretty much useless.
So when it comes to authentication in Azure, you've basically got two main flavors. You've got the old school way using service connections. This is basically like giving your pipeline a username and password. The problem? Well, you have to create it, you have to store it somewhere safe, and you have to remember to change it regularly. It's a hassle. Then there's the much better, much more secure way, managed identities. With this, the pipeline gets its own identity right inside Azure Active Directory. And the best part? There are no secrets for you to manage at all. It's an absolute game changer for security.
Okay, but let's be real. Sometimes you just have to use a secret, right? Like an old API key or a database password. So what do? Well, here's the golden rule. You never, ever put it directly in your code or your pipeline definition. Instead, you lock it up tight in Azure Key Vault. Just think of it like a super secure digital safe. Your pipeline, using its managed identity, of course, gets just enough permission to ask the vault for the secret, right when it needs it, and then it's gone. It's never just sitting around in plain text.
So our pipeline is authenticated, it has the keys it needs. Now comes the hard part. The code itself has to run the gauntlet. And what I mean by that is a whole series of automated scans. These are designed to sniff out security flaws way faster and more thoroughly than any human ever could. The goal is to catch these problems long before they get anywhere near a real user. And this isn't just a single scan. That's the key thing to get here. It's more like a three-layered defense. First up, you have SAST, which stands for Static Analysis Security Testing. Think of this as spell-checking your own code for common security mistakes. Next, you've got dependency scanning. This checks all the open source libraries and packages you're using, the code you didn't write, for any known vulnerabilities. And finally, after everything is bundled up into a container, an image scan checks that final package for any problems. See, each layer is looking for something different. It's all about defense in depth.
Okay, this all sounds pretty solid, right? We've got authentication, we've got scans, but, even the fanciest tools in the world can't save you from a few simple but very common mistakes. So let's just pause our code's journey for a second and talk about the traps that even really smart, experienced teams fall into all the time. And yep, here it is. This is, without a doubt, the number one mistake people make. Storing secrets in plain text is literally like taping your house key to the front door with a little note that says, "Please don't rob me." It's just crazy. Because if someone gets into your code repository, they don't just have your code, they have the keys to the entire kingdom. Your databases, your APIs, all of it. This is exactly the problem Azure Key Vault was built to solve. But it's not just about secrets. Another massive mistake is giving your pipeline way too much power. It might only need to update one little web app, but we give it permission to control the entire Azure subscription. This is a huge deal because if that pipeline ever gets compromised, the attacker doesn't just get access to that one app, they get access to everything. And finally, there's just neglecting your dependency updates. This isn't just about being tidy. It's like knowing you have a broken lock on your back door and just not fixing it. Hackers are actively, constantly scanning for these old, vulnerable libraries. It's their easiest way in.
Okay, so our code has proven its identity. It has survived the gauntlet of security scans, and we've sidestepped those common pitfalls. It's now on the home stretch, ready for the final and maybe the most sensitive part of its journey, actually getting deployed.
But before we push this out to the world, there are two absolutely critical checkpoints. First, we deploy to what's called a staging environment. You can think of this as a dress rehearsal. It's an exact copy of production where we can do our final tests. Then, even if everything looks perfect, the pipeline just stops. It waits. It waits for a mandatory human approval. A real person has to look things over and give the final go-ahead before that code can touch production. It's the ultimate safety net.
So there we have it. We followed our code all the way from the developer's keyboard to the brink of production. We've seen the security gates, the scanning gauntlets, and the dangerous pitfalls. Now, let's boil all of that down into a simple, actionable checklist that you can use for your own pipelines. All right, here are the big takeaways. Number 1, use managed identities whenever you possibly can. Just get rid of those secrets. Number 2, if you absolutely have to use a secret, lock it away in Azure Key Vault. No exceptions. 3, automate your security scanning. Scan your code, your dependencies, your container images. Do it on every single build. 4, always protect your production environment with a manual approval gate. And finally, number 5, regularly check the permissions your pipeline has. Keep them lean, mean, and to the absolute minimum necessary to get the job done.
And that really brings us full circle. After looking at this whole journey, you really have to ask yourself, what kind of path is your code taking? Is it a secure superhighway with all the proper checkpoints and inspections in place? Or is it more of a risky back road where you're just kind of crossing your fingers and hoping for the best? Because ultimately, that choice makes all the difference in the world.